This is the second day of this August 1980 7-day sesshin. We will continue to read from the book called The Tiger's Cave, the commentary of the Abbott Obora on the Heart Sutra, the Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra. All Buddhism, Mahayana and Hinayana alike, has the notion of passing over. It is in Zen also. Is it just a notion? Passing over does not necessarily mean being reborn in the Pure Land, paradise in the West. It means to pass from the present illusory eye to the eye of the bliss of realization. This passing from the present illusory eye to the eye of the bliss of realization. The I is still spelled with a capital I. Maybe it could also be spelled E-Y-E. Or maybe no need for an I at all. Realization. Understanding of truth, a seeing of truth. But in Zen and Buddhism it's often talked about the small I and the big I. The big I being no I in any conventional sense. There are these two sayings. One doesn't read them too often. Usually one hears that the Buddha at the time of his enlightenment said, "Wonder of wonders, everyone has this Buddha nature. Everyone is this Buddha nature." But since people are deluded, they cannot see it. They don't realize it. But there's another one that's one can read in many books. It was his answer to a mendicant whom he had left to sit down under the bo tree, saying, "From this seat I will not move." Until I've totally understood. And he met this mendicant again, and this was his exclamation. One can hear this ecstasy, which is not an ordinary ecstasy, not being beside himself. Nothing to be beside of. All vanquishing, all knowing, lo am I. From all wrong thinking, wholly purged and free. All things discarded, cravings rooted out. Whom should I follow? I have found out all. No teacher is mine, no equal. Counterpart to me there's none throughout the whole wide world. Arahat am I, teacher supreme. Utter enlightenment is mine alone. Unfevered claim is mine. Nirvana's peace. We don't know the original of this. translated poem or hymn it is called sometimes. Looking at it critically, one might find too many eyes and minds in there. But mine here means everyone's. No division, no counterpart. Counterpart to me, there's none. There is no opposition. And another exclamation of the Buddha at that time. Through many diverse births I passed, seeking in vain the builder of the house. Another translation, it says the builder of the tent. But, O framer of houses, thou art found. Never again shalt thou fashion a house for me. An enclosure, a closet, a box. Broken are all thy beams, the king post shattered. King post meaning the eye. My mind has passed into the stillness of Nibbana, the ending of craving has been attained at last. The craving, the thirst, being the builder of the house. Doesn't mean when one has no longer a house of course here in the sense of all these structures of ideas and dreams and fantasies one keeps building up around oneself. That without a house one is lost. It's an equally beautiful hymn by Milarepa, but we don't have it here, where he says, having long forgotten the comforts of monasteries, here on the mountaintop, I'm free. It's not his verbatim saying, but needing nothing, so having all the riches there are. This is the so-called big I. Means to pass from the present illusory I to the I of the bliss of realization, which doesn't mean to undergo some sort of mystical dematerialization, which has been the aim and longing of all magicians, to dematerialize. They do accomplish it, but it's still a trick. Behind the stage, they walk out. Because dematerialization is not the problem. The body need not be the problem at all. This very body, the body of Buddha, it's the identification and the worry about this body. And the identification of this additional house we've built, the house of the me. And we're so afraid of losing, of dying to. Why? Obora continues, the idea is a very sound one. But people today are not interested in being reborn. Really, truly reborn, not just a little revelry and then one feels sort of reborn. Rebirth, meaning dying the great death of the me, which is rebirth. Instead, they talk of living meaningfully, how to live meaningfully. A lot of courses being given these days on how to live meaningfully. And they're all right, but they only go as far as they go. They never tackle fundamentals. Obora continues, but in their talk about how to live, there seems to be a frank spirit of doing it at others' expense. One always focuses in so narrowly on one's own happiness. If only everything is all right in my family. If only my children turn out all right. If only my son doesn't take drugs, then everything will be all right. And the thousands of other sons? And daughters? And brothers and fathers and human beings? Religions which look at life on the basis of distinction between oneself and others always have this sort of exclusiveness of spirit. Let one always be aware that one is not overcome with the spirit of exclusiveness at any time. It is such a temptation. Because we always want to identify our religion, our family, our group. This is already at the exclusion, at the expense of others. Doesn't mean that one cannot find a place where one works most effectively. And that's that. Let one's actions speak, or one's stillness speak, rather one's propaganda. Obora continues, the object being a rebirth of the I, a rebirth of the I. A rebirth. That's enough. Buddhism is, of course, extremely introspective. Looking within, turning the light inward. How can I progress from the world of illusion to the world of realization? He asks. Is it even a matter of progress? It's such a heavy word, such a tainted word. In this day and age, in this Western competitive civilization. And it's not only in the West, it's taking over the East as well. Maybe sometime one can find a better word. Nothing will impede my progress toward full enlightenment. Maybe there's a better word. Because is it a progression? When there's no I, there's no progress. There's only seeing and understanding every moment. It is the truth of the moment that liberates, nothing else. The seeing of the truth, the understanding, the discovery, the revelation of the truth. In progress, there's always thinking and hoping and a lot of craving. And packaged in that package deal is the disappointment of failure, of course. That's why so many people come to Sesshin with such trepidation. I don't quite know why, but they're nervous, anxious. They may not succeed. They may fail. It is so difficult to shed these concepts because they're concepts that rule us. And to work in this great matter, no matter where one is. Without wasting all this energy on the idea of progress, or success, or failure, or gain, or loss. The basis is self-introspection, self-reformation, and thoroughgoing training. Introspection, this is this translation, to look within, to delve, dive, investigate, turn the light inward, question with great inwardness, and with great honesty to see all that comes up at a glance, or as was said at the last New Year's celebration, maybe at 2 glances. Self-reformation, this word is also a very loaded one. We've had reformation since time immemorial. And what have we ever reformed? All these great reformers. It's exactly what is reform. Put something into a new form. Put all the old misery into a new form. Throw the old elite out and establish a new elite, the new guardians of the truth, of the ideology. And the corruption is in the system. So reformation is not a total thing. It's not king post shattered. One shatters a lot of human beings in reformation. And then one establishes oneself as the king post. Maybe not called king, but put another name to it. Committee, or the chairman of the committee. So it's not a matter of self-reformation. The self, if it reforms itself, is still a self in a new dress. No self. Total transformation. Beyond all form. And yet, one doesn't disappear from the surface of the earth. The old ingrained habits still come up. They must be seen as they come up. Not reformed, but seen and dissolved as they come up, not reformed. This is the passing over, Obora says. This is the rebirth. And the idea runs through Buddhism. Hope is not just an idea that runs through. Or is it 90%? I don't know. In one commentary to a koan, it says, so few people there are who really understand, truly understand. In whatever scripture you look, you will find it. And not only in the Heart Sutra. You must find it in yourself. That's the Heart Sutra. The word heart in the title of the sutra means the essence. Into a mere 264 words has been condensed the immense great Prajnaparamita Sutra with its 600 sections. So this little sutra is called the heart. Chinese character for sutra, which is read in Japanese kyo, was selected by the first translators because it has also the meaning of eternal. And the sense is that the sutra is an eternally immutable truth. Because as we said at the beginning of this chapter, the words are not the truth. Words never are the real thing. They're only pointers. All the teachings of the Buddha are given this appellation kyo. And from ancient times to the present, from the present into the future, never do they change. The Heart Sutra is one of them, being the essence of the great Prajnaparamita Sutra. Now the next chapter is called The Load of Ignorance. The Load of Ignorance. Consider our life as it is with its crying and laughing. There is in each case a trace left of crying. It is a trace of crying. And of laughing, the trace of that laughter. Our living leaves these traces. What I emphasize always is that even when it is laughter, we should laugh with a truly empty heart. But we never do so. Cold today. And, well, how are you? Remarks which have no point, poured out like oil and accompanied with a little laugh. Some people can't say a thing without It's no real laughter of pure enjoyment. Because even in our laughter, the heart does not become empty of its burdens. Or does it? Maybe you'll call this man. But question it, observe it. Without the observation becoming the trace. Meaning condemning what one observes. Even in our laughter, the heart does not become empty of its burdens. the thing called the I is in the breast, and the laughter is centered around that I. Isn't that so? So often. Maybe not all the time. It is laughing because things seem well for the I. And the crying is of the same sort. With each step, the track is left. And this way of life is the world of birth and death, a life of illusion. Or we can say the life of cause and effect. This trace left because there wasn't complete laughter with no I. A complete cry with no I, no self-pity in there. Just crying with someone. The tracks left by joy or grief are footmarks. In religious terms, Zen Master Dogen calls them the heavy burden of ignorance, the root of evil. All these tracks that are left when the I is in the center. Tracks left here in the brain. Memories. Chalking things up. I won't forget that. Next time I'll show you how it hurts. These are tracks, traces, footmarks. Though I die, the roots of the evil I have created are not annihilated. Is that necessarily so? Is that inevitable? Or can there be an erasing of footmarks, fingerprints on the wall? Can there be a wiping away of all these traces? We recite, just one true samadhi extinguishes evils, purifies karma, dissolving obstructions. What is this one true samadhi? If it becomes a success story, it leaves traces. When he calls it a load, when Dogen calls it a load, these traces of the I, he means that all the time in our progress through life there's a great burden, which is more than we can really bear. And shouldering it, we're drenched in sweat until finally our human life ends. We long somehow to put it down. By some means to lighten ourselves of the weight of conceptual thinking. Because this is what this load is. Thought and memory. And the consequences of that. Including anticipations of the future. But to do so, we have to be earnest seekers. Earnest, not casual. in a sesshin today and then off again tomorrow. Earnest, serious, devoted, not in any conventional sense, doing a few devotions every day. Devoted to finding out. If at the time of one's conventional death, all these traces continue. Well, if at the time of one's death all one wants is to continue as this me, then obviously this trace continues. But to do so we have to be earnest seekers. If we're not, there's no religion. The quest for inner lightness, to be able to cry, but with an emptiness within the heart. No self-pity there. To laugh, but with the same emptiness. Such is the great wisdom. To do things with an inner emptiness is the wisdom of the knowledge of ultimate emptiness. The power of negating into emptiness is the great wisdom. The power of negating. It's not nihilism or nihilism, whichever way you pronounce it. Saying nothing exists. Or all is illusion. Negating, what does this mean? Negating into emptiness means to see the emptiness. The seeing being the emptiness. And then whatever has come up will not take over, will not assume power over one. Give birth to more and more thoughts, spread out its rootwork in the brain. Here's an ancient Eastern religion, this, in Hinduism, this neti, neti, neti. It's not this, it's not this, it's not this, it's not this. Meaning no words, no fixing of anything. No categorizing. No liking or disliking. To see and not to fall. And if one has fallen, to see it completely. At every instant, there's a Dharma gate beyond measure. Only by completely negating our human living through wisdom power is realization of the far shore possible. This can be very easily misunderstood. Only by completely negating our human living. Doesn't mean to say it's no good. I'm going to withdraw into the mountains or the desert, a cave or something. Negation doesn't mean suppression. It doesn't mean condemnation. It means abstaining from what one understands to be dangerous, to be overpowering, to be dividing. Isolating. With no concept behind it. It always must come out of the direct seeing, which is no trivial thing. It's what people go to sesshin after sesshin after sesshin for. Questioning mu, questioning who, working through koans, one after another. To come upon this clear seeing, again and again. A glimpse at first, and maybe just a bit more than a glimpse the next time. Without greed, because greed leaves traces. And it is born from traces. This is the prajna paramita. It's going beyond all obstructions, by going through them with open eyes. Open eyes in which there is no trace of condemning. Only by ultimate emptiness can we live each step of this frustrating life without a load on the heart. Only by ultimate emptiness can we live each step of this frustrating life. We can also add of this joyous life. Because in this life there's great joy. And great sorrow. Without a load on the heart. Only then sport in the world of Satori, called nirvana. When our thought is no thought, when we're not captivated by it, identified with it, then our songs and dances are the voice of the Dharma. Nirvana is translated extinction. It really means no winds, the end of winds. Not extinction meaning being extinguished like a dead crater, which may not be extinguished, may erupt in 1,000 years from now. There's nothing dead in this whole universe, nothing dead, except thinking, which is old and not up to date. The other day out at the country land, there was a dead woodchuck in the lawn. I thought maybe someone had shot it, but we didn't know it was there. And about 2 hours later, it wasn't there anymore. Just some traces through the grass. A fox had probably gotten it. In nature, left alone, one doesn't have to clean up. cleans itself up. All these dead weeds standing up in the fall, in the winter, and in the early spring, they're down. The snow has laid them low. When the snow melts, there's all this green coming up. Right through all this other stuff, which becomes the mulch. It's not dead stuff. It's only the beer cans, plastic sacks floating around that are disorderly in nature. Nirvana is translated extinction, but what extinction means is that even when crying, the crying leaves no traces. Similarly, emptiness does not have the meaning of a void with nothing in it. It means leaving no track. The fullness, leaving no track. The woodchuck, the weeds, the dead trees falling over, leaving no track. All consumed into new life. Short range or long range or infinitely long range. This leaving no track. There's a beautiful short poem in the Dhammapada. It says, whose conquest is not turned into defeat, nothing in this world follows him. Trackless Buddha of infinite range, trackless Buddha of infinite range, by what way will you lead? Speaking, teaching, preaching all life long, yet never saying a word. Trackless Buddha, by what way will you lead? Emptiness does not have the meaning of a void with nothing in it. It means not leaving a track. At present, each step is leaving a track. But if we can realize this trackless state, even in the present life, it is nirvana. To sum up, we're to pass over to the nirvana state which leaves no track. By the power of the ultimate emptiness of the prajna paramita wisdom. The passing being no passing. Because in that there is no time. Time leaves tracks. It says here the way to do it is set out in the Heart Sutra. The practice is to cross to the world of nirvana by the power of wisdom. And to train the heart to do it is what the Heart Sutra teaches. Can the heart be trained, or is training still leaving tracks? And yet without training, where are we? So can one work hard, questioning intensely, with a burning yearning to see into the truth of oneself, and yet not with one eye out on some kind of a goal? Then one is divided. And then the energy is split and leaks. Just the mo, the who. All of oneself in that. We'll continue with this tomorrow.